this is number 7. Use the definition of the derivative to obtain the derivative. So even though you know it's going to be 6x minus 1, that isn't going to do you any good if you just do that. But it's good for you to know that, because if you get the wrong answer, you should definitely fix your problem. Okay, so the definition of the derivative is limit as h goes to 0, f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So you would get some credit for just giving that much. But you look that, see that this piece here, okay, this piece over here is something we have to think about. And one thing you can do is first just rewrite f of x as f of t. I just want to show you something. See, if f of x is 3x squared minus x, then f of t is 3t squared minus t, right? And now, every time you see a t, you can put in an x plus h. I think the thing people have trouble with is taking the x and replacing it with x plus h. But if we do it in 2 steps, it might be a little clearer to some people. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use FOIL, or distributively multiply. This should be familiar to you. And finally, remove the parentheses. Okay, all that algebra is now going to get slipped in to here. So f prime is limit as h goes to 0. Another thing you can do is put the 1 over h instead of making a huge fraction bar. That's one trick you can use. I'm going to write this whole entire thing over here, but hey, I'm on a computer, so why should I? Okay, dump. Now, the one thing you have to be super careful about is distributing this minus sign. So you're going to want to do minus and then a set of parentheses. Well, I wrote it with t's, so I'm just going to recopy. 3x squared minus x. Okay? So you don't even have to remove this set of parentheses that's after this minus sign, because anything that's over here will cancel. So like this minus x over here will cancel with this minus x, because the minus would distribute, it would turn into a plus. So you can just leave it like that. Okay, so then what? Now what we want to do is everything else that remains should have an h in it. So let's clean this up a bit. And this is why it looks better as a fraction at this point. I'm going to put it back in fraction form now that those 4 terms are gone. It just looks better to cancel h's. So when we cross off the 2, what we mean is we still have the power of 1. And here's something that students will forget. This is why you should keep in mind it's 6x minus 1. The students will forget that even though you crossed off that h, it means minus 1 times h. You're not canceling as in plus h minus h, you're canceling h in top and bottom. So for example, h over h, a student would say that's 1. But in this context, it's very, very common for students to cross that out and then never see it again. Okay, so at this point, we are actually done with the exercise. Well, you may want to write out one more step. But this guy goes to 0. Okay? Because there's still an h left, as opposed to, for example, if I had divided by h squared, then I would have a plus 3, right? But then these other pieces wouldn't work out. So that's what you got to do. So the parts, when I'm grading these things, here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the fact that you have the definition of the derivative. Okay, if you don't have the definition of the derivative but you use it, well, probably it will be okay, but you have to be very, very careful and very clear about what you're doing. So it's hard to do that without starting with the definition. So the vast majority of people who get full credit on this question will start with the definition. And you could either put this whole mess up in this numerator directly, or you could calculate f of x plus h off to the side and then bring it in. That doesn't matter. You can use a 1 over h, or you can write a big fraction bar. That doesn't matter. The common places for making mistakes, again, are this minus sign, having trouble distributing that, and right here, when you do minus h and you cancel top and bottom, that's a big problem. Another thing people do is they'll just cancel out the h squared right here, and then they'll end up as a 3 term in their answer. So those are the kind of clerical mistakes that people can make. So you want to avoid all those kind of things. And, you know, if you just look at the answer, or what it's supposed to be, you know it's 6x minus 1. So I guess that's another error people do make, is they go part way, they get jammed up, and they know the answer, and they try to dig a tunnel from both sides. And they'll lose a considerable amount of effort for doing that, because that's kind of like falsifying your answer. It's not that bad, because you're not cheating, you're not looking at someone else's paper, but you know the answer and you're using it by the wrong method. I mean, the method that I'm not teaching. And so that's kind of a little underhanded when you try to just cover up your tracks like that. So don't do that. Just, if you get stuck, then just write a note to the side, on the side, that says, I know the answer is supposed to be 6x minus 1, but I'm getting jammed up in the algebra. And that kind of honesty will give you more credit than trying to cover up your tracks. Okay? So that's that.